It's been a while since we held an event. This event was originally scheduled for June, but landed in the period of sensitivity for the general election. So we had to postpone it. So thanks for today's guests for holding on for so long. And today's session is all about youth volunteering, the benefits, how we can get more young people involved and make it a worthwhile experience for them. So in this session, you'll hear from a great panel of speakers that we have for you today who are working with young people and youth volunteering. So joining us, we have Annie Caffyn from IVAR, we have Linda McGlynn from Young Movers, and we have Sara Caravelas from Volunteering Matters. So they'll all be sharing the work that they do in a minute. We did have a young volunteer lined up to share their experiences when the session was originally planned in June, but unfortunately they can't be here today. And then for the second part of the session, we'll move more onto a panel Q&A session, and we always aim to finish on time. Let me also just introduce my colleague Elved Selman. He'll be making sure things go smoothly tech-wise, keeping an eye on the chat, and basically taking care of everything so we can just listen to our speakers. So thanks, Elved. Anyway, that is enough from me, so let's hear from our guests. So first of all, I'm going to hand over to Annie Caffyn from IVAR to tell us more about the work of Pears NHS Network. And while she's speaking, my colleague Elved will also post a link in the chat to a case study that we did on Pears for you to read outside of the session at your leisure. So Annie, over to you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. And hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Annie from IVAR, and I'm just going to share a brief summary of the Pears I Will NHS network and a handful of key messages from this work. So to begin with, just an overview of the Pears I Will NHS network. So in 2017, Pears Foundation became a match funder of the I Will Fund, and in partnership with DCMS and the National Lottery Community Fund, created the Pears I Will Fund to support the creation of new youth social action opportunities, specifically in health and social care. As part of this work, the Pears I Will Fund has supported youth volunteering in 32 NHS trusts across the UK. Each trust is working in completely different ways to engage young people within health settings. So programmes vary in scale, approach and focus, as well as, of course, facing completely different local restrictions and challenges. Some of the trusts within the network were really early on in terms of implementing youth volunteering, while others were building on years of experience. But the fund's emphasis was on developing youth volunteering opportunities that were really tailored to local needs and practice. So the ambitions of the programme, there are three areas. Firstly, to embed youth volunteering into health settings and improve the range of opportunities available to young people. Secondly, to increase the numbers and diversity of young people volunteering within health settings. And the third ambition was a sort of culture change piece, which was looking to raise the profile of youth engagement in health settings. So really highlighting the value that young volunteers can bring to the NHS. And in terms of IVAR's role, we were the learning partner to the network between 2017 and 2021. So we were really sort of facilitating, joining the dots within the network of NHS trusts. And for today, I've just pulled out 4 key messages that really are about harnessing the power of youth volunteering, specifically within NHS healthcare settings. So the first message is about investing in young volunteers, obviously bringing huge value. We've seen how it takes commitment, time, energy and funds to both set up youth volunteering programmes and get them off the ground, but then further investment to sustain and grow them. We've seen persistence from trusts, NHS trusts, to find the right kind of approach that works for them and their own local area. And we've seen the benefits to both young volunteers, so for example, their confidence, skill sets, clarity over career options ahead, but also the benefits to patients and hospital staff that comes from that investment of resource, commitment and care. The second message is about giving young people a voice in health settings is both possible and powerful. The role of young volunteers can extend beyond supporting delivery within healthcare settings and move through to more strategic decision making. And one example of this is in Birmingham Women's and Children's Hospital. They've set up a young person's advisory group, which brings together a group of 11 to 19-year-olds who are passionate about the NHS. And the benefits of this is that it's embedding youth social action into institutional culture as young people's voices are heard and recognised, and it's also moving youth volunteering from the margins into the mainstream. Third key learning point is, of course, there is no one size fits all for youth volunteering, especially in terms of the approach to supporting and creating youth volunteering opportunities. The emphasis across the NHS trusts we work with has always been on customising youth volunteer projects to local needs and practice. And one example of this is from Chesterfield Royal Hospital Trust, who started really small, embedding youth volunteering on just one ward, finding allies and nurses to really champion youth volunteering, and then building up from there, testing out ideas, listening, learning from young people. So although the trusts were part of a collective network, the emphasis was always on tailoring youth volunteer projects to local needs and practice. And the final message to share today is that collaborative spirit and partnership working are, of course, crucial. The Pears I Will network learn together, sharing ideas, challenges, pooling expertise, and supporting each other. And beyond the network, local networks were also essential to deliver meaningful volunteering opportunities. So schools, community projects, as well as internal departments within each trust worked together to try and identify the groups of young people that they were hoping to reach and then delivering approaches to achieve that. So the Pears I Will network has been characterised by collaboration, optimism and connection. And the core value of the network has really been in providing that sharing of resources and practice, reassurance and support. And the youth volunteer coordinators really ring-fence that time to build and sustain relationships. So I'm going to pause there. Hopefully I haven't gone over too much, Nick. And I'll share a link to our summary report in case that's helpful to share more details with you all.
Thanks, Annie. No, that was perfect, and some really interesting points there that I think we'll explore later in the Q&A as well, if that's okay with you. And by all means, yeah, share resources in the chat as well. I'm sure our audience would love to have all those links and then read at their own leisure. So next, I'm going to hand over to Linda McGlynn from Young Movers, a youth-led Glasgow-based charity that enables young people to empower themselves through volunteering and lifelong learning. Over to you, Linda. Have we got Linda here?
Yeah, okay. Sorry. So I'm Linda McGlynn, project manager at Yomo Young Movers. So we've been around for quite a while in Glasgow. We're quite a small organisation, and we have, over the years, built up good partnerships and opportunities for young people. One of our most successful projects, so the one I'm going to talk about, is our Youth Health Champs. Youth Health Champs is supported by the local NHS health promotion team with training and opportunities. We work across the Glasgow area, but we mostly work with young people with severe barriers to learning, to opportunities, to excelling at school, young people from higher areas of deprivation, poverty, young people that are struggling in life for their next steps. So we work in areas where it's the opportunities for volunteering are low already, and the opportunities for young people with barriers are non-existent, and we support these young people to become good active volunteers within their community. We have a lot of partners as well as the NHS that's helped us support us with opportunities. We work closely with a lot of employability programmes that run across Glasgow, but the the health champs themselves is a programme where the young people go through a process of learning about what health is, what health means to them, what health means to their community. So it's just what health means to them in any way whatsoever. And then they start looking at what they see as healthy or unhealthy within their community. And then they go through a bit of training from the NHS, and other people would do peer education training. We do lots of bits and pieces of other training. And at the end of after the initial 6 months after the recruitment, they work on their own project to tackle an issue that they feel is passionate to them. So in the past, they've done a range of things. They've worked closely with the health promotion team. They have done information leaflets for alcohol, for NHS A&E services across Glasgow, for parents, for support if their young person turns up at A&E with having had taken too much drugs or much alcohol. It's a support document. They've done events, they've spoke at conferences, they've done loads of different things. We work in a very individual basis. We really support the young person with a personal development plan. We talk to them about, what their needs are, their individual needs, what's stopping them from achieving what they want to achieve. And we develop a very strong relationship with the young person. And the young person basically comes back to us and lets us know what they want after they're feeling like they're able to do that. They might not be able to answer everything right away, but we keep checking in constantly with them, how they're doing, they're turning up. But there is a lot of individual support and how we support them to become active volunteers within their community. The health champs have created a lot of resources around mental health recently. And one of the big events that they've had most recently is a event where they co-produced it and co-delivered it, and we just felt empowered to. But they designed the whole event, and it was about mental health, but it was about positive mental health rather than the negative, because everything about mental health is negative. So they wanted to change the sort of tack on how it should be seen. So they did a lot of stuff about positive mental health. They had 15 stalls and partners with different activities going on for people that turned up for the event, and they had tried and tested every part of that. They co-designed and worked and often delivered some of the sessions themselves. So they were at the heart of the delivery of that project. It was really, really successful. There was 350 odd young people turn up to the event. YOMO offers accreditation, skill development. It's really important that your young people get recognised and they get rewarded for the work that they're doing. So we are a SQA registered centre. We also use Youth Achievement Awards, and it's about rewarding the young person. That's something that's valuable to them. If they're not achieving at school, they can still achieve through their volunteering. It's very important to us. I'm just looking at my notes. It's a long time since I've done something like this. Skills and confidence, and just building the young person's resilience up. We do a lot of mental health training with them. The young people that we work with have designed services for YOMO, and services that are now running across Glasgow. One of the projects that they designed and helped, that's the support to deliver, is the Walk and Talk project. And this was come out of COVID when young people were feeling isolated. So again, that was co-designed by young people, and it's been funded for 5 years, and it's running across Glasgow. So that's us. That's what we do. And look, thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you, Linda. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to move on to Sara Caravelas from Volunteering Matters, and she's going to talk to us about the London Young Ambassadors Programme. Over to you, Sara.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sara, and I work for Volunteering Matters, which is a national charity. So I've been leading the London Young Ambassadors, which is the Mayor of London's Youth Social Action Programme for schools. This programme started in 2012 after London hosted the Olympics and the Paralympics. And it generated a legacy for civic volunteering. But under the umbrella of Team London, there's been various programs that were created, and London Young Ambassadors was one of those, with the aim of engaging underrepresented young people in youth social action and in volunteering. So how the program is run is we work with young people aged from 9, 10 up to 25. And we deliver a 12-week program in person to pupil referral units, to alternative provisions, and to special educational need and disability schools all across London. And the aim is really to get to know young people and to find out what is it that they are concerned about in their communities. So what would they like to change? What are the issues that are impacting them or are impacting their peers? And then we give them the tools and we work with them to support them to create a project that would address those issues with the aid of a £500 grant, which is another element. We administer grants to the schools. So to date, we've worked with over 850 young people. We've administered 108 grants from £500 up to £1,000, and we've worked in 31 boroughs and with 78 schools. And some amazing projects have been created and have been led by young people. So ranging from mental health, creating care packages to share with their peers or to share with the community, holding mental health conference in their schools, creating podcasts, raising money for charities, local shelters, and homeless organizations. A real variety and wide range of projects. And the beauty of this is that it's coming from young people and it's very varied and very different depending on which area of London and also which age group they are in. We tend to see a difference in kind of like what is the predominant issues that are impacting them. Some amazing double benefits for young people and for communities. We find that young people increase in confidence. So when we go in initially, sometimes there's no eye contact, there's no engagement from young people, but then after the 12 weeks, you see them leading a program, standing in front of a classroom, for example, sharing their findings, sharing their project, and just see how passionate they are. It's been amazing. And then I suppose one of the biggest benefits that we've seen is how it is creating a habit for volunteering and a passion for volunteering, because we are seeing schools creating or embedding some projects into their school curriculum more, and we're seeing the projects become more sustainable as well. So in addition to this as well, I wanted to touch on a piece of work that we've done recently, which was we co-designed a mental health toolkit with young people. Young people said that they felt there was a need to have a toolkit that was created and designed by young people for young people. So this was an amazing piece of work that we've done, and it has been disseminated across London through local authorities and schools. And then just to end, just on the importance of celebrating young people. So similar to what Linda was saying, there's achievements, assemblies at school where young people are obviously thankful for their work and spotlighted. But in addition, we do some work with the Greater London Authority for some community events where young people are invited to come and share their projects, and we thank them for all their contributions to the work and to London that they've been doing. So thank you very much. I hope that was okay with the timings, and yeah, any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Sara. Yeah, perfect with the timings as well. We're now going to move on to the second part of the session. So I invite all our speakers to keep their cameras on as we go to a sort of panel Q&A. I think we're also going to be joined by Bridget Kona as well, who I can see has made it in the chat. So Bridget, if you'd like to turn your camera on as well and come and join us, and you can introduce yourself to the audience if you'd like to. See if... Just double check. Oh no, she's not there. She was there and she's not there now. So we'll just leave Bridget for the time being and see if she can join us again. So now we're going to move on to a Q&A session. So I just encourage the panel, if you've got anything to add, just put your hands up on the point and I will come to you, and do feel free to get curious and ask each other questions as well. But my first question, and this one's for the attendees really, and whoever wants to go first can go first on this one. What practical advice would you give to attendees who maybe want some effective strategies for engaging more young people in volunteering opportunities? So who would like to go first on that one? Linda, how about you? How do you engage young people with volunteering?
I think it's sometimes really difficult, and I think it's got a lot more difficult as we've come out of the pandemic to engage young people in volunteering. But yeah, we just work with local partners, we work with schools, we just make sure that there's a lot of one-to-one support available. We try our hardest to let young people know that they're important to us, you know, and offer this. Years ago, we would just be a smaller, but we try and offer a bigger holistic support. So we have mental health support within the organisation and things like that. But yeah, it's just making it fun, making it light at the beginning, you know, and having good youth workers to really try and engage the young people and bring them on board, because it is about increasing their engagement. They won't volunteer if they're not engaged.
Thank you, Linda.
Nick, if I can come in there as well. I think alongside that, I'd say about flexibility, and particularly within healthcare settings, we saw that if a role has that adaptability, so whether that's a sort of rotation placement or a flexibility to try out different kinds of roles within a healthcare setting, as well as different timescales to commit to rather than one chunk of time set over 6 months. I think trusts definitely saw how that improved retention rates when there was that flex, as well as the support that Linda's just mentioned.
Can I just add as well? Sorry, Nick. I was just going to say that, you know, we find that it's really important to go to where young people are, instead of expecting young people to come to us. So in the work that I do, we go to the schools because we know young people are there, but it's also about obviously removing those barriers, because accessibility and flexibility, like Annie, you mentioned as well, can be complex for so many young people. So I would say go to where young people are, find out what they're interested about, and then from there you can build on their volunteering journey.
So, go ahead, Linda. Go ahead.
We obviously across Glasgow, there's lots of organisations, youth organisations and sport organisations that offer volunteering, and we actually have a wee network of the volunteer managers or the volunteer project coordinators, and they share volunteers. So if somebody comes on to YOMO and we don't offer what they're looking for fully, we share that young person, we support that young person to go to another organisation because maybe it's a better fit for them. So it is about like really partnership working and knowing who's in the area, what's available, and like so the young person gets, if they want to volunteer, there's opportunities there.
Thank you, Linda. And sorry, you mentioned about the schools in particular. So if we're talking about schools, educational institutions and other organisations, the role that they can play in promoting volunteering, how easy have you found it to engage those organisations? Are they on board from the start, or is there any strategies you need to implement to get them on side and engage them?
Yeah, so we've been really lucky that obviously we work in partnership with the Greater London Authority, and the program had been running for a while because we only were commissioned in 2020. So there was already some contacts. But what we find, and what I found has been the most effective, is again going to where head teachers are, and then speaking to them about the program, speaking to them about the benefits of youth social action, volunteering, and then just to make it flexible and to make it organic to fit the needs of every school, because it's very varied, very diverse. But we look at fitting it around the curriculum. So, for example, if a PSHE lesson is running, we can then have the program running alongside it. So it's not taking too much time out of the young person's academic studies or any other commitments that the school may have.
Thank you, Sarah. Would anybody else like to come in there about engaging with schools and organisations and how they do it? Go ahead, Linda, you're on.
Yeah, it's just that networking. Get yourself onto as many networks and, get that lead person and speaking to the right people, finding out who's got the influence or who's got the power, and you can get in there and do your presentation and open up the doors and just like being positive. But yeah, we have a lot of networks across Glasgow that we sit on to promote what we do.
Thank you. And you mentioned, just quickly, you mentioned about going to where headmasters are and explaining about the benefits of youth volunteering, for example. What do you elevate a pitch? What are you telling them are the benefits of youth volunteering? If you've got them for like 30 seconds.
Oh, I link it in with the soft skills that they develop, and also in terms of the curriculum. So how they can make it, for example, maths. So doing a social action program, it links in with English. So you're getting that ticked off. You've got your speaking, you've got your writing, because they have to come up with a project plan. You have your maths, because you have to look at your budget with the grant that they get given. And then obviously you have all the other skills in terms of teamwork, of linking in with PSHE, with getting to know the community. So there's all those benefits that we put into one, similar to Linda, one presentation to sell it out. But I would say one of the biggest points as well, and I think it's been really interesting for schools in terms of the grants that we give. So I think being able to give a £500 or £1,000 grant to a school, that really supports them as well to get more involved in the program, because a lot of the times, and in other projects I've been delivering similar, where you do all the work with young people and they come up with some great ideas in terms of volunteering, but then there is no funding to really bring those to life.
Thank you, Sarah. And Annie, can I just come to you around that sort of specific skills, experience and benefits to young people? And I guess with you, with Pears as well, it's about how it can support them in their personal and professional lives. I know you've looked at sort of futures in healthcare and stuff like that. So do you want to speak a bit to that point, Annie?
Yeah, sure. I think the main benefits that we were seeing from young volunteers within healthcare settings, one was definitely that sort of confidence to be put into a new setting, whether that was the kind of local ward, the local shop outside the hospital, or on a particular ward. So we really saw kind of new skills and kind of well-being, which has been really well documented across the sector. But the other ones that we saw in terms of benefits, one was a kind of volunteer to career pathway. So really seeing how young volunteers were either saying they really wanted to pursue a career in healthcare, or just using it as a springboard onto kind of progressing into other avenues. And another area I would say that was particularly relevant to within hospital settings was a sense of connection and purpose that we saw the young volunteers getting, particularly during COVID, that kind of connection to their local hospital or local community, and really being able to make quite a tangible contribution to the COVID emergency. That was one area, because we were still learning so much from the trust during that phase, because they were continuing their volunteering programs within healthcare. It was obviously different and completely different within different trusts, but that kind of sense of direct connection, purpose, was one of the big benefits we saw.
Thank you, Annie. The next question, it's for all of you really, but I'll start with Sara on this one, and it's about equity and diversity. Now, this is a really big part of our strategy, and it runs through all we do as a funder. So how can we make volunteering more appealing and accessible to young people from diverse backgrounds?
So I suppose, again, working with schools, and the schools that we're working with, unfortunately, we've all seen the stats of young people that get excluded. So we work with very diverse schools. But I would say the importance is that your staff and your volunteers represents the demographics of the young people that you work with. Young people need to see role models. So when you have the adults, the volunteers coming in, they need to see themselves in those that are coming in, engaging and working with them. So I would say it's very important that when recruiting volunteers or staff to deliver similar programs with young people, that you have a wide, range of diversity in demographics, just so it's, because young people, they are very open, and they will say, how do you understand you, like, you're not my age, you're not from this demographic, or you don't have this issue. So having someone that has similarly kind of like been through some of those experiences. Yeah, so I was just saying about the importance of representation. And again, in terms of equity, so from my experience working in special needs schools, working in pupil referral units, they're very different. So it's about how we ensure that we give each school the needs and the opportunities that they need in order to be able to fully take part on the program as best as possible.
Thank you, Sara. Annie, would you like to come in? I could see you nodding your head to a lot of what Sara was saying.
I feel like Sara's more of an expert on this, but I think I completely agree with everything Sara just said. And also, I think earlier as well, Linda mentioned that kind of support network around volunteers. I think so that volunteers are coming in and are aware of that kind of web of support around them that they can lean back on. That I think feels really important, so that there is that kind of local network connected to the volunteering opportunity as well. Lots of the hospital trusts were thinking really creatively around connecting with different local charities, large and small, Duke of Edinburgh awards. So really thinking about specific groups and then designing a bit of a plan to say, okay, how actually can we partner with organisations to make sure that we are being as accessible and inclusive as possible.
Thanks, Annie. I see my colleague Elved's got his hand up. I'll come to you in a second, Elved. I just want to go to Linda on this, because Linda, I know when you were talking about your project earlier, you talked about how you create that individual support as well, and really sort of develop a strong relationship with the volunteer, with the young person.
I think that's really important, and also I think as an organisation you should lead by example. And I think, like say, obviously employing the demographic that you're trying to target and work with is really important. And also, like say, we've got our LGBT charter. We're just hopefully finishing our gold to showcase, make sure that you're showcasing to young people that they're welcome from all backgrounds, and and like we have loads of signs up and all the things that you need to do to be part of that. But yeah, I think, like just say, making sure that young people don't feel that they're different, that they're included, and making it's like even your social media posts, make sure your social media posts are covering the ethnicity and the backgrounds as well. It's really important that you're inclusive in everything that you're doing as an organisation. When you're working with a young person, it's like that first step, that first image that they have of you. It has to be inclusive. So it's like we work really hard to be inclusive, and that's included, like, obviously different. Sometimes it's interpreters, sometimes it's like having things in different languages if needed, and working with other partners. And we are very much an organisation that employs white staff members, but we have strong links with organisations from the Afghan community and smaller organisations that have got better grassroots into the young people, so that, and we work in partnership with them so that they can come and do bits of workshopping and share skills and support staff. So it's really important that to make sure that the young person knows that they're included, no matter what their background or how they look or how they feel.
So again, Linda, you're using that network to help.
Definitely, always.
Yeah, always a network.
We do nothing on our own. Nothing, absolutely nothing.
I get it. Elvis, over to you.
Yeah, I think maybe this question's maybe been answered a bit to some extent, but we have the question in the chat about some more of the formal safeguarding processes you adopt as an organisation, and what are they, and how do you manage them to ensure that there's like a safe space for that young person? But please feel free, if you feel like you've answered that question, to pass it on.
I can go first. So because we deliver all the work in schools, we follow the school safeguarding protocols and their risk assessments. Something that we do on our side, we still do our risk assessments. We go through the school's safeguarding protocols, and we meet with teachers or head teachers in advance just to know if there's any safeguarding issues that we need to be aware of, or if there are any topics that we should avoid, just because when we're talking about social issues, anything can be brought up. So we like to know that in advance, so we then know how to navigate the conversation if we need to change topics, for example. So that's some of the things that we use on our side.
Thank you, Sara. I'll just pause there just in case Linda or Annie feel they have anything to add there. My next question is around, I don't want to say, is it a negative question? It possibly is. It's around the potential barriers. So that our audience may have to overcome that prevent young people from getting involved in volunteering. So what are those potential pitfalls and pratfalls that they might stumble across, and any tips about how we can overcome them?
Can I just come in just to clarify the question? So barriers for young people accessing, or barriers that organizations may face in trying to get young people to access volunteering?
Both, actually. I think both. So okay. I think both are relevant. So I'm just thinking, if some of our attendees today wanted to engage young people in volunteering, it can be barriers for the young person or barriers that organisations may encounter. I think both are valid, actually, Sara. Thanks for clarifying.
That's fine. Okay, I can go. So I would say, as an organisation, the first thing would be to understand the barriers that young people face in accessing volunteering opportunities. So can be numerous. For example, carrying responsibilities, so unable or not having much free time to volunteer. Access to public transport, for example, to go out to those volunteering opportunities, maybe from low household income, so they need to work and again might not have the time to access. It could be language barriers, for example, recently arrived into the UK. So again, I think would be depending on the demographic that you are trying to work with and engage. I think just understanding and finding out more about the barriers, and that can be done by consulting with professionals, or sometimes even having almost kind of like groups with young people, just to find out a little bit more about what some of those challenges that they face, and then what could the organization do in terms of supporting them. So I would say that, that would be the first point. And then I suppose in terms of engaging young people for organizations, again, it's about where to go. So where are young people, where could organizations go? So schools, for example, colleges, universities, that you know that young people will be there, or youth clubs. And then just, liaising with, like Linda mentioned, those that are kind of like leading on that, those that empower, have the responsibilities for that. And then just sharing your ideas and how you would like to work together. I hope that answers.
Would anybody like to build on that? Thank you, Sara. That was very useful.
Can I just come in? I think, like, say, having practical things in place, like don't expect a young person to ask for bus fare when you say that you give or provide bus fare for them to volunteer. Make sure they're offered it. Make sure it's really accessible. Don't wait for them to like not turn up because they haven't got their bus fare, or they've not got a bus pass if that's what you provide. So make sure that's there. We always as well have food. We're working with young people, they're teenagers, they're hungry. There might not be a lot of food at home in today's situation. So yeah, we always make sure there's plenty of food, fresh vegetables, fresh as things like that, to make sure that they have access to support, to make sure that if they're going to go and volunteer, that they've got a lunch with them, they've got this. So it's the practical support. I think, like, say, culturally, I remember doing a workshop once with two second year students in a school, and they actually thought volunteering was community service. It's something you did when you were bad, and that came from their parents, and there's no value from their parents in volunteering, and they see it as unpaid work and that sort of thing. So you've got there's lots of things out there that you have to make sure that you're addressing when you're talking to young people.
That's really interesting, Linda. Thank you. Some really practical stuff there as well. I know Elved's got a few more questions, so he'll be coming on screen now. Go ahead, Elved.
Yeah, I mean, this is some sort of out of my own curiosity, really. If I could bring us back a bit, we talked earlier about tailoring the activities for that young person and listening to the young person to make sure it's tailored towards them. What does that listening look like? What sort of activities do you have in mind when you want to talk to young people about what they want to do? So sort of what are the practical stuff that you're doing there? If I could bring it to the whole panel, really.
I'm happy just to start off. I'd say sometimes it can. We sometimes can see how people can fall into the trap of thinking they need to do extensive evaluations and really long kind of really thorough surveys, but actually a lot of what we saw had most value in some of the hospital trusts we were working with was just having one-to-one conversations, seeing if the young person wanted to have more group conversations, so totally kind of tailoring it to that young person, and just listening, checking in after their volunteering, see what went well, maybe what wouldn't, triangulating that with the nurses and hospital staff's perspective on it. So just, I think, having that kind of real listening ear on the ground, wherever the volunteering opportunity is, and just being very present. So I think in some of the hospitals they had their volunteer office in a very present and visible space, so there was always that kind of ability to check in, and it not being this kind of feedback loop that had to be extensive, but just kind of just genuine care and attention.
Just to add, so I'll give an example of how we tailored our delivery to different groups of young people. So what we often do is we consult with teachers beforehand just to find out if there's any specific needs within the group, like nonverbal, for example, any particular interest in topics, so we can use those as like hooks to get young people engaged. But we've worked with a setting before where our group of young people were majority nonverbal, and we tend to get young people to create a project plan. So we're like, okay, how are we going to do this? So we were like, let's hand out some disposable cameras and then get young people to take pictures of areas in the school that they feel safe, that they enjoy, and then maybe areas that they don't like as much. So they went off and took lots of amazing pictures, and then we got them obviously kind of like printed, and we did like 2 posters from that. So one was like, okay, this is what they enjoy, this is what they want the school to kind of like look like, and then we were looking at the areas for improvements. So that was a way of engaging on people and making it organic to their needs, and still allow them to participate and to have their voices heard.
Thank you, Sara.
I would agree with Sarah with this about getting them involved and going out and about and taking pictures and making it really practical. It's one of the ones that we do with good and bad in your community, and then we talk, and that brings up topics of conversation, the things that are annoying them, things that make them angry, and we do another, let's say, we do another bit about we ask questions about the community. Do you disagree or agree, and get them to move about and do, like, it's just like basic good old-fashioned youth work. It's activities to get them to start thinking a wee bit, and that like start to understand why they're there. It doesn't have to be a tick box or a consultation. It's like it's either it's conversations, but it can be in group and getting a voice and just recording that. And like young people love voice notes now. We often just get them to leave voice notes at the end of sessions, things like that for evaluation as well.
Thank you. My next question, and I'm just mindful of the time. So it's about, I'll start with you on this, Annie. It's about how we can measure and demonstrate the impact of youth volunteering, both on the community and on the volunteers themselves. And I'm starting with you because you're the learning partner for Pears. So, any sort of tips, advice there?
Definitely. I think my main reflection, which I've just learned from working with incredible organisations and NHS trusts, is to try and have in mind first the purpose of why you're wanting to measure it, why you're wanting to demonstrate the impact, and then to speak the language of that group. So if it's a kind of you're wanting to shift some maybe strategic thinking, and actually you know that on the board there might be someone who really, it's a numbers game, well, then think of ways you can start to measure changes in terms of retention, in terms of groups of schools that you're maybe working with, so that kind of a bit more of the kind of quantitative side. But alongside that, I think it's so essential that it goes hand in hand with stories, and often stories are the bits that stay in mind, whether that's a young person themselves crafting their own story through videos, photography. It doesn't have to just be the written words. So using the two, going hand in hand to really showcase not only the kind of tangible numerical difference that it might be making to communities, but also then the kind of real power and difference that it's having to young people's lives, communities around them, so getting different perspectives. So it could be through case studies, it could be through as well as through surveys, it could be case studies, interviews, just conversations where you're just showcasing. But I think definitely the two go hand in hand, and it doesn't have to be either or, and it could just be sharing a few quotes and stories. But yeah, really listening and kind of tuning it into why, the purpose of why you're measuring that. So it's not just measuring it for the sake of it, but that it's got a real kind of purpose at the core.
That's really useful, Annie, and I'll give Sara and Linda the opportunity as well. But we're a knowledge and learning team as well, and we love the power of stories, and just they are so powerful. I'll just give Linda or Sara an opportunity to come in there if they'd like to as well, around that sort of measuring impact, measuring the value.
The only thing I would add to what you were saying, Annie, is we do celebration events. And just let's showcase the events and get the young people to tell their stories physically. I mean, they're really powerful. We've had some amazing awards. And the young people can pick the theme if they want to do a theme night. You can make it fun. Sometimes they like to dress up, sometimes they like to dress down. But they showcase it, and you invite people along to see that. You know, the people that need to see it, the parents, the community, other people, and I think like that. So that's what we love. That it's a lot of work, it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's a lot of work, but it's definitely worth having many, even small showcase events or bigger ones that are really, really impactful.
I'll just add in, completely agree with everything that Annie and Linda said, but just to add, we do a lot of podcasts with young people, and I think that's a great way of sharing that impact as well, in a way that is coming directly from the young people. And then in addition, we do like pitch videos, so similar to Dragons Den, in a way where young people are presenting their project plans. So some of those where we have permission to record it, that is then shared with our funders and also with other partners, organizations and schools. And again, just really bringing in that storytelling element and hearing directly from the young person themselves.
Thank you, Sara. I'm just mindful of the time, actually, so I'm going to move on to my last question. Time always flies when we do these sessions. And my last, question is more an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to share what work you have lined up in the youth volunteering space, what's on the horizon, what's exciting you, or anything you would like to see explored or developed in this area. And that can include challenges for us as a funder as well around youth volunteering. I feel I'm going to put somebody on the spot here. I'm going to go with you again, Annie, and then Linda, and then Sara. The same order for that last question. Apologies for putting you on the spot straight away.
That's fine. So things coming up that NHS England, Barnardo's, Pears and IVAR are working on is we're developing a learning network similar to the one I shared at the beginning, but just for integrated care systems. So it has that same kind of sharing approaches to youth engagement at the core of it, but just particularly within healthcare settings. So it's looking at growing and embedding youth volunteering within local communities outside of healthcare as well. So that feels really exciting. And I guess something in terms of developing within this space, something that feels hopeful is sort of resourcing for collaborations and that reflective space to just step back, scan, okay, we've talked a lot today about partnerships and allies. So really that resourcing to have that space to step back and really think through carefully actually which partner organisations, because obviously as it's so clear that's core to this work, to do youth engagement work in a meaningful way. So I think resourcing for that feels really exciting.
Good challenges, and that's often the stuff that gets missed, isn't it? Because we're just too busy moving on to the next thing, and that space to actually sit back and reflect and look, it's very valuable. Linda, over to you.
Going forward at the moment, we are supported by the local NHS health promotion to help schools promote and develop mental health policies for their schools, and we're doing it like the way where you do it, Sara, with they get £500 or they have access to £500 and they've got to do an application, and it's our youth health champs that are making the decisions on whether they get the full £500 or so. It's a complete youth empowerment, and then they go and visit the projects. So that's from primary schools, local primary schools to secondary schools, and it's just so that young people in the schools are involved in creating that mental health policy and making that mental health policy come alive, and it's just that whole youth empowerment. So we're really excited about that, and I think for me, we always had a wee bit of £500 grants like years ago through our youth bank, and that's all stopped and the funding got stopped in it. And like hearing your project, Sara, was like the benefits of that is just it's £500, but the impact in that is so small grants. Decision being made by young people, and that whole and the young people make the decision on the small grants. Is the power within that was just unbelievable. And I would like to see greater access to that as a youth organisation to manage and run again, because it was so we ran a youth bank for 17 years. It was unbelievable, and they never got any more than £500. Most people only got 250 because we never had enough money. But what they could do with that money was amazing. Absolutely. And it was all very grassroots, local, and the empowerment of the panel that were managing that was amazing. So miss it greatly.
Sounds really interesting. Getting the thing you were talking about as well about young people making the decisions and stuff
Has
like
to be
that,
young
because-
people that makes the decisions.
Yeah, because it can't be tokenistic, can it? You know, sometimes when you're working with young people in Youth Voice and you engage them and then they don't see things happening and they don't see their voice coming through, what's the point? So yeah, it sounds really good, Linda. Thank
And
you.
it has to be, and as well as that, it has to be local panels of young people. And that's always hard to work, I know, but it's like, you know, if it's like for the whole of Glasgow, they can't just be one panel. The panels are always local. It's like if it was an East End, there was a panel of young people managing that in the East End, and it was the same for the Northwest and that in Glasgow. So yeah, I definitely feel it has to be local panels as well as young people.
Thank you, Linda. And finally, over to you, Sara. And I'm just conscious of time. We've got 2 minutes left, so I'll give you a minute.
I'll be
Sara.
quick. Just very similar to Linda. Yeah, just adding to more place-based opportunities for schools, for young people to get involved, and on the London Young Ambassadors focus, just growing more the mental health side of things with the projects that we've been doing with the toolkit. We've delivered some training. So just, yeah, continuing to see that grow and develop further, I think would be amazing.
Thank you. That was perfect timing as well. So we're coming to the end of the session. Thanks to our panel for giving us their precious time today and for being part of a very interesting session and sharing your experiences so generously. We can't do these sessions without you, so thank you very much. Thanks to Elved too, who's going to pop a quick poll into the chat, which is a precursor to a more in-depth evaluation that you will receive later, which will help us improve our sessions and make sure we're delivering what people want. We have another event coming up in October, which again, Elvid will post in the chat. So feel free to sign up if you want to know more about how we can support babies, young children and families to thrive. And finally, thanks to you, the audience, for coming along today. I hope you found the session useful and enjoy the rest of your day. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.